Hello everybody, my name's William. I hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Today we're going to be doing another FSEconomy flight in the Cessna 208 Grand Caravan. We'll be departing from Terrace today, flying on to Prince Rupert, once again in beautiful British Columbia. Hope you all enjoy the flight. Let's go ahead and get into the planning so we can get on with it. Start out on Sky Vector here, just so you can see what we're doing. We're going from Terrace over here on the right. I have these GPS points kind of plugged in to see, just to kind of show the river we're going to follow on the way out to Prince Rupert over here on the left, flying past some more beautiful mountains, hopefully, and following the river on the way there. Taking a look here at FSEconomy, just so you can see, we're taking a couple interesting passengers here to Prince Rupert. And then we have 100 gallons of fuel on board for the aircraft. I went ahead and refueled it a little bit more, so we should be set up for that just fine. More than enough for our flight today, and Prince Rupert does have Jet A available on site, so not really needing to worry about that too much. Anyways, that is pretty much all we got for the planning, so we could go ahead and get into the plane, get on with the flight. Alright everybody, welcome on board the Cessna 208 here on the ramp at Terrace. We have our FSEconomy client up, aircraft is on the ground and available. Let's go ahead and go action, start flight, and make sure everybody gets loaded on board. We have plenty of jobs loaded up. We can go ahead and get that out of the way now. Get on into getting the aircraft ready for startup. So we'll go through that. We already got a pushback, a little bit of a pushback here from the ground crew, so thank them as always. So we go through and get ready now. Battery on, get our avionics on.
Test. Okay.
Go beacon on as well. Make sure our ignition's set to on. Get all our screens up here. Alright, so now then, they're back far enough, and it looks like we are clear to go ahead and start the aircraft up. So let's get our fuel boost on, and then let's hit the starter. Make sure we got our parking brakes still set. Oil pressure's coming up. Props obviously spinning. That's a good sign. We'll go conditioner lever to low idle. The fuel flow, ITT's climbing. NG's climbing. Oil pressure is now in the green. So wait a moment. We'll click the starter off here in just a second. Let's get that starter off. Looks like good engine start. Go ahead and pull this back. We're going to leave that in low idle while we sit here and just kind of get the aircraft prepped for our departure. We'll go ahead and go fuel boost back to normal before I forget. And we'll get our pitot heat, stall heat, all that stuff going. I'm going to go through now and get the aircraft a little bit more prepared before our taxi. And we'll be ready to get out of here before too long. Alright, so we are pretty much ready to taxi. From the look of the wind, it only about 3 knots here. It is coming from the east, but really our best runway choice would be runway 03 if that was much stronger, but 3 knots is close enough to winds calm. I was going to plan for runway 03 for departure, but instead I think we can just taxi over to runway 21, which is going to be right, just right down here, so straight ahead and down to the right on the taxiway. That'll save us a little bit of time. So let's go ahead and get our parking brake off there, and let's get our landing light on, so they should know that we're about to move. Just so we can clear them a little bit better, we're going to go off to the left here, and go around them, and then we'll kind of hook a right once we're clear of their equipment, and start on to the runway. It is a short flight today, just about 66 miles to Prince Rupert. You can see it's a little bit more overcast. Weather's a little bit dreary, but we should be fine, especially planning on taking the valley, kind of like we discussed in the planning here. So not overly worried about anything there. We'll go ahead and put 210, just completely overshot it. Put 210 into our heading. And we have 4,500 feet set up in the altitude, just just kind of see what we're able to get away with as far as the altitude goes. We're not really going that far anyway, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Just coming up to the runway. Let's go ahead and get our takeoff flaps out. And we'll hold short and go through the rest of the stuff to get the aircraft ready. See a lot of big mountains around. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. Coming up on that hold short line. So we'll hold here real quick. Now let's go through, let's go conditioner lever to full. Let's come back out of this now as well. The transponder, we'll get that on. If I remember correctly, this is the runway that was mislabeled, so I think it says runway 0 tree. Let's see if it actually says that. Or if it says 2-1. Maybe I was just mistaken last time. I got confused, who knows. We'll go ahead and go strobe lights on, landing light on, taxi light off, and we should be good to go for departure now. Just go ahead and increase our range out a little bit, give us a little bit of situational awareness, and we're following this river down. So depart out, and we're going to want to establish this river and fly it. So we have our takeoff flaps out, condition lever is full forward. We are going to be rotating at about 70 knots, as always here, and trying to climb out somewhere around 110 knots on our way. Looks like we're clear down the runway. Let's see, what's it say? It does say zero tree, so that's an interesting one. Anyways, we'll be departing runway 21 here. We'll just roll into it. So let's go ahead and get our power coming up. A little too crazy with it. Pull it back. There we go. Airspeed's alive, looking for 70 knots. And there's 70. Pull. And we have a positive rate. Let's continue to kind of build some airspeed. Let's go ahead and get our flaps in, continue to pull. Keep our climb up. Start trimming the aircraft a little bit more, nose up. Hold about 10 degrees here. Once we get the flaps in, it really helps the climb in the aircraft, is what I've been kind of finding. We're at about 100 knots now. We want to go off towards our right a little bit. So let's go ahead and start that turn. We're 500 feet over the ground. You can see the river that we're going to be following. We'll put the aircraft on about a heading of 260. Get out over that river. We're holding right around 110 knots. 1,500 feet, about 1,000 feet over the ground. We do have a little bit of terrain. It's kind of why I wanted to come a little bit more towards the west, just so I'm sure we're going to clear it nicely. We'll continue to climb up, and we'll see what we can get away with as far as our call it a cruise altitude today. It's not much of a cruise, but let's take a look down this valley. Yeah, the tops of the mountains are basically closed in this kind of overcast layer, and it's about 6 degrees Celsius out, and it'll be falling as we climb, obviously, so we're not going to mess with that today. We got into a little bit of icing on a flight not that long ago, very minor, and we were able to clear it up very easily, but it's not something I want to get into anymore. So we'll see. We have about 1,500 feet to go for 4,500, and we'll see what we're able to do. see if it kind of clears up as well as we continue off towards the southwest here on our way to Prince Rupert. Once we kind of establish ourselves in the valley here, leveled off at an altitude that we're comfortable cruising at, I'm going to go ahead and tune up the AWAS frequency for Prince Rupert as well, and just kind of get an idea of what we're looking ahead at. But for now, let's just keep focused on climbing out. We're doing good at almost exactly 110 knots. It's been pretty close. Just 300 feet to go. We're almost in this layer of clouds. So if anything, we can come down to 4,000 and just cruise right around there. We should be just fine. But I think 4,500 is going to work, at least where we are right now in the valley. So let's level the plane off. It is kind of a bummer when the weather kind of kills our visibility to really be able to take in the sights as we go on these trips, but at the same time, I do like the restrictions it kind of gives you sometimes, having to fly around it. I hope you guys don't mind too much when the weather's a little bit crappier. I'll pull the power back just a little bit, make sure we trim the nose down as we're building up some airspeed. Stay on top of the airplane here to the best of our ability. Let's go ahead and a little bit more nose down. There we go. It's pretty well trimmed. I mean, that could be better, but hands off the controls now, and it's kind of just doing its thing. Set our heading bug to 230 just in case. Nice reference for kind of where we're flying in the canyon. Let's check the outside temperature. It is barely above freezing, but I think we're about to get into the clouds at 4,500, and I don't like that, so we're going to descend down. Yeah, I think 4,000 is going to be a safer bet. Pull this power back just to make sure we do not get into the red line. Air's nice and smooth though, so we can keep blasting away. We're going to keep our landing lights on and everything because we're kind of flying through a valley, low visibility, everything like that. I want to stay nice and visible for everyone. At 4,000 feet, we're still just barely scraping below these clouds, but I think these are just kind of some wispy clouds that are hanging a little bit lower. I think our actual overcast layer is up a little bit higher than where we are, so it should be okay. This would be some sketchy flying for sure. You wouldn't want to be going down a valley like this and then all of a sudden find out that you can't see in front of you anymore, and you can't climb above it or anything like that. Without getting into some sort of situation you don't want to be in, you got to turn around in a valley. That sounds like a scary time, but in Flight Sim, it is just good fun, really. Sit up in our seat here and take in the sights, cruise on down the valley. Alright, well, we've been forced a little bit lower. We were cruising along. I was taking a look at the radio, putting in the frequency for the Prince Rupert AWAS, and noticed it was getting very bleak outside. Basically, the clouds just all of a sudden lowered on down. At 4,000, we were kind of completely fogged in. I could see the ground still, beneath us, and the visibility, like we could see just barely, but needed to come down. So we're breaking through, and we're now sitting at 2,500 is I think what we're going to cruise at. Let's see if it gets any worse along the way. It's still just follow this river on through. We have a nice valley here for us, fortunately, and that was a pretty wide portion of it where it was pretty straight, so I knew I could just kind of hold my heading and go down. Also, with the avionics, you know, you can kind of see an idea of what's beneath you or in front of you or whatever, but not ideal at all. We do have the AWAS frequency set up, and we are now 37 nautical miles away from the field. So we could try and take a listen. We are pretty low and kind of in a valley, so I wouldn't necessarily expect to be able to pick it up just yet, but kind of once we navigate through this and I'm on a bit of a straight path again, we'll go ahead and take a listen, see what the weather looks like in front of us, and also try and jot it down as well. That way I don't have to guess again. Okay, as we start to round the corner here, look down at our map, it looks like it's really going to open up. We're getting a lot closer to the coastline, just about 30 nautical miles now from Prince Rupert. So we're going to go ahead and once we kind of get pointed out this way, we're going to switch over to the AWAS, and even though I don't think they've necessarily fixed it to where it's actually going to give us completely accurate information, which is unfortunate, we can at least figure out what the wind speeds look like and our altimeter setting to switch on over to as well. So yeah, this is a much wider looking path for us. It also looks like the clouds have kind of gone back up a little bit. We're still going to hold here at 2,500 feet because that was not necessarily fun fighting them at 4,000. So we'll hold here, but we'll get our pen and paper ready. We'll go ahead and sync our heading bug. We're right around 270. I just don't want to let anything kind of get away from us here. So we'll go ahead and just kind of put everything on a capture mode here. Activate a heading mode, get the flight director up, and let the autopilot take over for a moment, let it have some fun. Let's get our pen and paper ready and jot down this information.
Charlie, Yankee Papa Romeo, automated weather observation, 1800 Zulu. Wind, calm. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, few clouds at 1,000 feet, few clouds at 4,600 feet, few clouds at 11,600 feet. Temperature, 6 C dew point, 10 C altimeter, 29090. Charlie, Yankee.
Okay, so 29090 was the pressure. So let's go ahead and actually deactivate the autopilot. I thought I clicked that down enough to be 2990. The wind said calm, and basically all the other information sounded exactly like it has always sounded. Probably still bugged, so we'll not take that into consideration necessarily. But the wind calm and altimeter setting are good for us. So we have runway 13 and tree 1 available at Prince Rupert, with it being wind calm. We'll probably plan on runway tree 1, as that will be a bit of a straight in for us. So we kind of come around to the left. I think we'll probably fly this almost all the way out to the inlet there. And maybe kind of duck around between. But it does look like it's getting better. I wish we could get some accurate information on where the clouds were from the AWAS, but it just always kind of says the same deal. The visibility is always tree, and the clouds are always like few at 800 feet or whatever they say. So, and then there's 17 layers of clouds from the sounds of things. But we have about 21 and a half miles to go. We're running it nice and low here at 2,500 feet. Only had a slightly scary moment, but I went up that high. I'd rather be closer to the clouds. That way I kind of knew where they were, and I can work my way down, than be running at 2,500 feet and then all of a sudden get forced down even lower without much of a heads up. So all in all, I think it's working out pretty well. We just need to be able to kind of find our way back over towards the west at some point and get on our way to Prince Rupert, but enjoying the flight either way. Not in a huge hurry, so. Alright, I think we can start heading a little bit more of a direct path. Or at least start coming around a little bit more. If we were to go direct to Prince Rupert right now, it would be around about a heading of 275. But we can at least start coming towards the west a little bit more and shortcut our way through. So we'll do this. I'm gonna kind of go between these two mountains here. I think we could safely kind of fly over them. You can kind of see, we can see the tops of some of these that are definitely taller off towards our right. But we're so close. We're within 15 miles of the field. We might as well just kind of continue flying around this route. I already put in heading 310 into the heading bug there, so kind of keep an eye on this blue needle right there that you can see is it's basically on heading 280 right now. If that kind of swings around to 310 and we're in a clear enough spot to take that path, we'll go ahead and turn it, because that'll get us basically directly lined up for a bit of a long final here for Prince Rupert. But in all honesty, I kind of expect to be able to see the field as we round this last little bit of terrain right off to our right side right now. So you can see there's some runway lights right there, so we'll be able to set up for it a little bit. We're kind of going to be taking a little bit of a right base basically for runway 31 directly here into Prince Rupert. We're at 2,500 feet, roughly 2,400 feet. Prince Rupert's at just over 100 feet elevation. You can see we're right here on the ocean, so we'll go ahead and start descending on down 10 miles out from the field. Actually really good visibility all the way out here, and that is definitely the field right there. So it's still overcast and kind of gross outside, but our visibility is not bad at all. So we're pretty well clear of all the terrain around us now. Let's go ahead and go down to about 1,000 feet. We already have our landing lights on and all of that jazz. We left them on for the entire flight just so we'd be nice and lit up flying through the valley there. Pull the power back a little bit. We don't want to get too much faster. We could go approach flaps 150, full flaps 125, shooting for around 80-85 knots on the approach. Just kind of lean over a little bit, keep that field in sight. see all the mountains even further up towards the northwest there. Here's some of the buildings right here along the coast. Some cool little islands out here as well. We're about 1,200 feet. Start to think about leveling it out. 6 miles from the field. Still want to we'll start turning a bit of a shallow turn to final here. My instinct says to wait to turn to final, but every single time I listen to it I wind up turning to final a little bit late, so we'll go ahead and start a shallow turn here. We're below 150, so we could go takeoff flaps now if I want to, and we are going to be a little bit low. Yeah, see, I should have turned more aggressively. That was too late for sure. One of these days I'll get the feel for it. So we'll just kind of hold at 1,200 here. I think you can see it is just now switched over to white and red. So it's kind of sort of on the glide path. Let's go ahead and pull the power out. We started accelerating there because we started descending. And let's go approach flaps. Start slowing the aircraft down. We're 3 miles from the field. Still nice and fast. At 125 I can go full landing flaps, so it'll really slow us down. Let's go ahead and do it. 2.5 miles from the field now. We're now a little bit high, so we'll punch that nose down to kind of fight the ballooning we had going on. Bringing the speed down, it's 95 knots now. We're looking for about 85. And get back on top of our glide slope in here. Just a little bit high, not too much though. There we go.
500.
And right around 85 knots, 1.5 miles from the field. Just keep coming down. Clearing these trees, aiming for these 1,000-foot markers. Start pulling the power out. Landed a little bit long, but it's okay. Let's just hold that center line. See what our ramp situation looks like. I wasn't going the wrong way on the map. So it looks like we're going basically to the end here. So we're just lightly on the brakes. Don't need to slow the aircraft down too much too quick. Let's be able to make this right-hand turn off. Looks like we've got a bit of a shed, a hangar, and some form of a cabin basically to choose from. I think we'll go with the hangar. Get a little bit closer to it. But we'll get the aircraft kind of cleaned up here. So let's pull the flaps in, get our strobes off, landing light on, landing light off, taxi light on. And let's go ahead and make our way on over to that hangar. We'll also, yeah, I should put the transponder on standby. And we'll complete our flight once we're there at the hangar. I hope you all enjoyed the flight today. Like I said, be curious, would you rather just have the weather a little bit better so we could kind of look around, or is it being a little bit different every single time? little bit more interesting for you. I personally think it being different adds a little bit more, but do know it's nice to look around for sure, kind of enjoy the scenery. Either way, I think we will taxi on over here, kind of doing a big loop around. We'll taxi up and stop the aircraft. Nice and close. And let's get our client up. We'll set our parking brake. And the flight is now complete. Aircraft is on the ground at Prince Rupert, so that is our flight done. We'll go through and shut the aircraft down now. We can get our taxi light off. Let's see, taxi light off. We'll leave the beacon on. Let's go ahead and cut that off. Fuel boost off. That cut off. Okay, so beacon light off, avionics off, and thank you very much. Get our pitot stall heat off as well, and now then the battery. Thought I hit the beacon there. Guess I didn't. Close up the fuel tanks, and that is us on the ground here at Prince Rupert. I hope you all enjoyed the flight. Nice flying with you guys today, as always. If you did like the flight, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more content, as always. I appreciate having you all along, and thank you all so much for the support. Until next time, bye-bye.